Hi, everybody. I'm Takara, and this is my husband, Kylan.
And today we have a special continuation of last week's episode, Intentional Self Care. And with the topics pertaining to self care, mental health, and therapy, we decided we would talk to our friend, Cassidy French, who also happens to be a licensed master social worker.
Also known as a therapist.
Yes. Also known as a therapist. People use the terms therapist, counselor, the person I talk to. They use it all interchangeably, so that's what I do. But I am trained, so.
Nice. Thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate
Yes, I'm so excited.
I'm excited too. Our very first guest.
Yes. That is very exciting.
It's such a big deal.
It is. We're excited. You're excited. And, we prepared a couple questions. So,
awesome.
Where shall we start?
Well,
I'm ready.
Jump right in here. How did you decide to become a therapist?
I love when people ask me this question. There's a little bit of humor to it. So I was in high school trying to figure out, okay, like I'm going to college, what's my next step going to be? And initially I went for nursing. So I'm like, it's cliche, but it's cliche for a reason, right? I want to help people. So I'm like, what a better way to do that than nursing? And I don't know what I was thinking because I cannot do bodily fluids. I'll just say that. I can't do it. So I'm not sure what in my mind was like, this is a good idea for me. So I, quickly learned that it wasn't for me. And my mom, I remember talking with her and she's like, what about social work? And I was like, what's social work? I was 18, 19 years old. I didn't know what that was. And, we looked it up and she was like, your school has a really good program for this. So like, you know what? That's a good idea. And now that I've been in it for like these five years of like postgraduate education and, in school for it since 2015 pretty much, I'm like, I cannot imagine myself doing any other profession. I remember growing up, I was always very sensitive. I was always very, aware of how other people around me were feeling. Mm-hmm. So I didn't come to the conclusion on my own that I should be a social worker, eventually become a therapist. So it was actually my mom's idea, and she kind of like sparked the thought in me, and then I just took it and ran. So it's always, it's always something that I think about is, what if she never said that to me? I would have never, you never know, but I in that time wouldn't have it come to me so quickly. But I had therapists as a kid and, throughout college, so I knew what it was. I think I just didn't know how to get there. So I credit some of that to my mom.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
It's like you don't have to always just look for the strengths in your children, and I think that's so amazing of your mom, and I love that it happened that way.
Yeah. Like she must have seen that in me, and I just was, obviously not an outsider to myself, so I don't see the same things.
Right.
Sure.
So it's always so fascinating how, like, she saw something, Yeah. And I knew, like, internally, like, I want to do something with people, like, one-on-one, very involved. I'm like, okay, nursing, that's, a common job, a good job. But that was not for me. That was not at all for me. Yeah. So once I found social work, like I said, I took it and I ran, and I love it. So I'm glad about that. Yeah.
That is truly amazing. But I definitely understand, because I myself used to be a home health aide, so I definitely do understand the dealing with the bodily fluids and whatnot. It's a bit much.
It's not my strength. I can deal with tears, and then besides that, I'm not well equipped. So
For sure.
I can sit there and cry with you, but anything else, I can just be there for moral support because, yeah. So that's why I said there is a little bit of humor to it. After the fact, obviously, I felt like, am I doing the wrong thing? Did I just ruin college? But I was just getting on the right path. So it ended up working out.
Nice.
Very nice. Like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah. I'm just looking at our questions here. Let's see, babe. What do you think as far as, because again, the last episode was about self-care. So what does self-care look like to you?
For me personally, it's lots of boundaries.
Yeah.
Because I'm someone who, I enjoy having a lot of things on my plate, and I'm also someone who gets overwhelmed quickly and easily. So self-care for me is not necessarily like a bubble bath or a face mask. Sometimes it is. They're lovely.
Yeah.
But for me, it's a lot of time management because that's what increases the quality of my life. It makes me feel like I have a handle on things. And I always like to talk about that with self-care because I think, I don't know where the idea came from, that self-care is all about like the tangible things, like the bath bombs or the spa days. But for me, it's really like the things that you can't see but that you do, right? Setting boundaries, planning out your days. Meal prepping for me is self-care because when I don't eat well, I'm tired and I'm cranky, and that impacts my family. So that is my version of taking care of myself in self-care. But like I said, I do love a bubble bath. So when I have the time and the space, I will definitely try to do some of those tangible things that make me feel good. But sometimes we don't always have the time.
Right.
It's busy and kids, family, work, running a business, whatever you're doing. Sometimes setting boundaries is the best way to do self-care. So that's how I do it.
Wow. I really love that for several reasons. But the reason that really takes me back and allows me to think at my own journey of growth with self-care, this is something that I didn't even realize was falling under the umbrella of self-care. Because that was a big thing for me, finally realizing that I did need to set boundaries and learn how to do that and create that balance so that my sanity was more preserved. Because I am the person that takes care of everyone else. I am the nurturer by nature in every aspect of my life. And throughout all my relationships, I would be the person who would be moving forward and really just taking care of everyone else, even at the times where it would be not as healthy for me to do so. So that is very fascinating to take a moment to think about that. For sure.
Yeah.
Oh, I think you're muted.
Yeah, just on accident. There you go.
Oh my gosh.
Who knows?
Someone FaceTimed me, and I didn't know how to get rid of it. I couldn't swipe up.
It's okay.
I was going to say though, in the actual term itself, self-care, how do we take care of ourselves? And it's are we setting boundaries and managing our time well, or are we going to the spa? And there's a huge difference, and there's a time and a place for both.
Yeah.
Both are very much needed. But for me right now, in this season of my life, it's more of the boundaries. And that's just me. For some people, it's going for a run or going solo grocery shopping with no distractions, or I'm someone who loves getting my nails done. I haven't in a little bit. I did these myself. But, those are just some examples of do things that make you feel good,
Yeah.
whether they're tangible or not. that is what it's all about, and increasing the quality of our lives.
Yeah. I love that because it aligns with what we said too.
For sure.
In the last episode.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. Let's see. What is your opinion on couples therapy?
Couples therapy is so necessary.
You think so?
It's so necessary, yeah.
So what do
I
you
was.
feel about it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you feel like it's something that should be preemptive or preventative, or something more reserved to fill a need due to impending crisis? Because a lot of people wait until they actually have passed the point, or they're right there in the thick of the moment where they absolutely need something right now.
Yeah. Let me ask you guys a question.
Okay.
This is how I think of it. Do you service your car? Do you get oil changes and rotate your tires and do whatever is necessary for your car
Right. Yes.
Exactly.
before it breaks down?
Right.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah.
When everything's running smooth,
Yeah.
you still do it. Hopefully.
right. Because not everybody does.
That's true.
Right.
Right.
Which is okay, right? Everyone's at a different spot. I always ask that question because most people either own a car or drive a car or know the general maintenance of a car and what happens when you don't take care of a car.
Right.
And cars are machines. We are human beings. So if you think of a car and you're maintaining it, even when it's running smooth, there's even less anxiety about it. You know that what you're doing, preemptively is healthy in the long run. It's going to cause you less issues in the long run. Mm-hmm. If we're looking at our relationships that way, whether it's, mom and dad, mom and child, dad, child, whatever, going to see a therapist together, in this case like couples therapy, it helps to decrease those crises that happen.
Yeah.
Because you have the skills, you have the space, you have the time to discuss things before they blow up, So I always think of it as like, do you service your car before it breaks down? Well, yeah, Cassidy, duh, that's the whole point of servicing it so it doesn't break down. So let's think of therapy that way. Right? Well, I don't need therapy because nothing's wrong. That's okay. You go and you just share what's going right and have that one-on-one, time with the therapist to say all of the things that are going right and things that you're doing well, the ways that you're growing. And it can just continue to strengthen the relationship. That way, when those, speed bumps or what have you do happen, you know how to fix it. Mm-hmm. Right? You've got the manual for how to fix a flat tire. You know how to put new wipers on it because you read the book.
Right.
So that's how I think of going to any therapy, like preemptively, but especially for couples, because it's natural you're going to run into issues, disagreements, tough seasons. Mm-hmm. It's inevitable.
Yeah. So
why not be more prepared and have, the trust also in a therapist to bring these issues to, compared to, we're going through a really hard time, let's bring someone new into this. That can be really intimidating and challenging.
Yeah.
So I always say, start sooner, because it can't hurt.
Yeah. That's a good
It cannot hurt.
A very good
yeah.
point.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of what happens is usually when talking about therapy or getting a therapist, there's usually a negative connotation to it.
Yeah.
People often go to, if you need a therapist, there's a problem. There's something wrong. And that's not necessarily the case. It's something that's just, like I said, maintenance.
Yeah.
that does make sense. Is things, even the point that you had just brought up, is you get to share those triumphs, the good moments, not just come and talk about it when there's a problem. You get to share when
Right.
anything that's going on with your life, and I think that's
Mm-hmm.
something that could really be helpful in changing the way we feel about therapy as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
And then sticking
Yeah,
with
I think you.
oh, go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
But I was just gonna say, you hit the nail on the head with like therapy having sometimes a negative connotation, especially for couples. Oh, you guys are in couples therapy. What issues do you have? And it's like, last time I checked, every couple has, their disagreements or like different love languages that they're not on the same page. We're human beings. We're not meant to be perfect. So when we're talking about therapy, it's supposed to be helpful and enlightening and something that's beneficial for everyone and not like a punishment because something is wrong.
Right.
So we want to get rid of that negative like stigma and connotation that somehow got attached to it. I'm trying to rip it off.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just gonna
like
say,
that.
sticking with like the car comparison, because you take your car in like every whatever mileage. So like, what would you say for therapy? Like, as far as like, what's the average frequency? Like, is it once a month or once a week?
That honestly depends on the couple, right? There's lots of factors that are to be considered. So things like, what the issues are or what their goals are. And then you have to factor in what time can they dedicate to therapy?
Yeah.
Is it weekly? Is it bi-weekly? Is it monthly? Is it every few months? Are they going to text me and be like, hey, we're kind of going through a rough patch. Can we schedule something? And I do that with my one-on-one clients all the time. I'm like, okay, we haven't met in a month. How are we feeling about that? It was a rough one. All right, let's put you back at bi-weekly and see how that goes. So that's the beauty of, with most therapists anyways, that if they're in private practice, they're more able to be flexible with you. And that's the thing, is there's not a one-size-fits-all, which I love about therapy.
Yeah.
Could you imagine if like everyone was brought the exact same ideas, the exact same time frame, perspective, treatment plan? It probably wouldn't be effective.
Right.
For sure.
So it really, it depends on what the goals are and how much time that they have and are willing to dedicate to their therapy.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, do you normally see couples, and like, because you said one-on-one sometime, and like, is there like a range of ages?
Yeah. I have only worked with, in my professional career, with adults. And sometimes they'll bring in their wife, they'll bring in, their boyfriend, or if sometimes I've had where they're co-parenting and they just want a place to kind of go through some communication issues. So I've worked with multiple couples. When I was working in the addictions field, I'd have a lot of like family members come in and doing like family therapy. So a mom and her son, or a son and his brother, whatever. So I have a lot of interesting takes on just watching people interact and helping them change that for the better. It's fascinating.
Yeah.
Doing couples work or family work, whichever.
Yeah, that's nice. That you don't have to have like a focus only. Like, I only see couples, or I only see ages 30 to 35, or something like there's a variety of the clients that you have. So I'm sure that helps a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, it helps. It's not like, it's per person. So if they're like, I really want to get my mom in here, I really want to like have a space where I can talk with her about this, like bring her in.
Yeah.
And we'll go back to our individuals. There are some specialized therapists out there, licensed marriage and family therapists, and then I think there's another like specific license that you can get to work with couples specifically. I don't have that. I just kind of work with it as needed. But there are some like specialized therapists out there. So if you're, thinking about it, that's something to consider if you want someone just kind of general, or if you want a specific marriage and family therapist. There's so many options, which is good. That's what we need.
Yeah. Wow. For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is pretty amazing, I would say. And
lots of options.
With that in mind, what would you recommend for those who are without a therapist, either because they're unable to get one or don't wish to have one? What should they do for therapy?
My first question would be if it's someone that it is within their means, right? If they have insurance and insurance will cover it, or if they're able to do private pay, what is stopping you? Because at that point, are you nervous or hesitant? In that case, a lot of therapists will do like a consult call, so you can see if it's like a good fit, or even just discuss some of your hesitations. But if it's someone who maybe they don't have insurance and can't pay out of pocket, or or both, they can't pay out of pocket and they don't have the insurance, I would say to use the resources around you. And that's hard when you don't know what they are. So I even say like a simple Google search of like mental health resources near me. There's so much ever since COVID. There's tons of like online resources, groups. There's even like low cost mental health care on certain websites. So looking at maybe to something like that if it's a financial issue. But I think the number one thing is to use the people that you have around you. Not that they are specialized to be a therapist, but I'm very big on like no one knows you're struggling unless you say something.
Yeah.
Like that is our responsibility as individuals to express that. If I was struggling and someone noticed and said, hey, like, are you doing okay? Use that as an invitation to be like, actually no, like I'm not doing well. Instead of no, like fine, I'm just stressed.
Right.
So that again, like the responsibility with acknowledging, what's going on, whether you are reaching out for help or if someone is actively recognizing that, something's off.
Yeah.
That's a big one. Let people in. People want to help,
Yeah.
And lots of online stuff too, because I know whether it's transportation issues or financial issues or even like social anxiety, I don't want to show up to an office and sit, one-on-one. TikTok is amazing. And that's where I met you guys, you know what I mean? That it's one of the most supportive platforms that I have ever been on, and I've been on it for like 2 months.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I have met some of the nicest people on there just for support and knowing like, okay, someone else is going through. I'm not the only one.
Right.
That's super validating in itself.
Sure.
Definitely.
So lots of free online resources and like use your circle. Use your circle 100%.
For sure, I like that.
What else do we have here? Okay. My phone keeps timing out. So let's see. We probably should have put them in order.
We're just doing what feels right.
I know, yeah, for sure. Well, I guess, oh, no, that's a good question. How do you balance taking on the emotional and mental needs of others and still maintaining your peace? That was a good question, babe. Clearly.
Yeah, for sure.
You thought of that one.
I'm gonna answer this with a question.
Okay.
How do you know I have teeth?
Okay, that's a really good answer.
No, I'm totally kidding. It depends on the day.
Yeah.
It depends on the day. It is challenging, and that's why for me personally, like I said, boundaries are so important, and they do teach you that in school, but it's different reading it in a book or having a conversation about it versus a human being sitting in front of you 8:15 a.m., 9 a.m., 10 a.m., 11 a.m., 1 p.m., 1:45, 2:30 p.m., and then going home and being present. Yeah. You cannot do it successfully unless you have boundaries. I am honestly really, really skilled at it, and when I first started getting good at it, I was like, am I a bad therapist? Like, I'm not thinking about my clients as soon as I walk out that door, and I'm like, is that bad? And I consulted a couple of my friends who, one of them has been a therapist for 20 years, one has been for longer than I have, so, I bounce ideas off of them, and they're like, no, like, that's good. When you are there in that office and you are fully present, great. And then when you leave, you have a whole life and a whole family. Yeah. And yourself to take care of. And that sat with me because it's true.
Yeah, absolutely.
You are not a bad therapist for not thinking about your clients outside of session. Yeah. Not worrying about them. Yeah. Do I still? Of course. Yeah. Right? I was in this week in a session, and one of my clients told me that they have cancer. Oh. Right? So when I go home and Andrew's like, oh, hey, whatever. That pops up sometimes. I'm like, it was good. It was still good. But I'm not letting that impact my mood. Yeah. Right? I can be, in this case, like, sympathetic of his situation, and I don't have to use empathy outside of session. Mm-hmm. I use that in session. Right. I put myself in your shoes when I'm in front of you. When I go home, I can't be doing that. So that's where I find the balance is, usually it's my commute home, when I just, I'll get on the phone or, I'll just put some music on, just kind of think about whatever. And then when I get home, I'm like, okay, we're good. Yeah. But do I still worry sometimes? Of course I do. Yeah. But there has to be a balance. Mm-hmm. You'll burn out if you don't have a balance with anything, right? Like,
for sure.
We can't do it all the time, right. Especially as a therapist, right? When you've got a life outside of there, you do have to protect yourself to be a good therapist. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's the whole point of it, of setting boundaries, is so that I can actually show up for them. If I spend my time, feeling so sad, which I do, for this particular client, when I come in tomorrow, I'm exhausted. I'm already mentally exhausted before I even meet with my first person at 8:15, and that's not good. Right. That's not good for anybody. So it's something that it took a while. I did a lot of crying at work. I took a lot of things personal. And now it's just like a bead of water rolling off a duck's back outside of session.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's tons and tons of practice with balance. It's a hard job. Yeah. And it's very much worth it. Both are very, very true at the same time.
Yeah. I think like you said, it is a skill to be able to do that, because I was just wondering, well, and you also were able to recognize your own growth, which is beautiful, because you did say at first, it wasn't as easy as it is now. So that's something to keep in mind for others. It's not like you just had the skill to start with, but it was practice, and that makes a lot of sense, because
I was not a natural at that. I was not a natural. I had to put my training wheels on. Yeah. It was a ride, and now we're here. So
That's amazing. Yeah. Yeah, it made me wonder, like, as far as, like, ruminating, like, for the people that, like, haven't mastered the skill yet, as far as, like, what they could or should do, like, for those moments, like, you know, they wish that they could do that too. Because I know, speaking for myself, like, I will come home and say all types of things about work, and then, like, he has created a phrase for me, which is recycled rage.
Love that.
Like, really? Like,
that's funny.
You're feeling it all over again.
Absolutely.
Your recycled rage. I need to start using that because there are days where that happens to me. I'm like, you know, just all in a tizzy about it.
Right.
But if that's something that you or anyone are struggling with, like personally, professionally, even outside of the therapy world, just of like ruminating after work or after whatever, first, like, you have to recognize that you're doing it.
Yeah.
You have to know that you're doing it and how it's impacting you. And sometimes that takes like a few days just to even like think about your thinking.
Right.
You know? It's like we don't usually do that because most times we're on autopilot. We do the same thing every day, or our thoughts are the same. You know, the way we speak to ourselves is the same because we've been doing it for 27 years here. You know what I mean? So that is a skill in itself to even recognize of like, I'm really like, I'm stuck on this. Yeah. And then after that, when you're like, okay, like, I see where I'm getting stuck, or I see where, you know, I'm kind of plateauing and not able to continue on.
Right.
I have done this, and it's super helpful just as a start. Set a timer. Mm-hmm. I have a little, one of those, like, egg timers, and it's in my office. I use it with my clients sometimes. We're going to set this timer, and we're going to use 5 minutes, and you can vent. You can complain. You don't have to be nice. You can cry. You can do whatever you need to do. And no one is going to stop you. Like, this is your day. Get it all out there. Because after that timer is up, we're going to do something. We're going to think about something else, and we're going to go do something. And in theory, it sounds easy, but it's difficult.
Yeah.
Anything new and unfamiliar will feel difficult. But that is such a valuable skill of, like, setting aside time for those thoughts, emotions, opinions, whatever.
Yeah.
Because they all are serving a purpose. Mm-hmm. Right? I'm ruminating about this client that has cancer because why? Because it makes me feel sad. Why do I feel sad? Because I care. That's not a bad thing.
Right.
There needs to be a limit and a boundary for it, though.
Yeah.
So it's like, still honor those thoughts and feelings and emotions, but we have to limit that so that it's not taking over our peace, right? Like, in the original question, how do you keep your peace?
Right. Yeah.
That's usually how. Yeah. It's tough depending on the day, but that's a great strategy. Is like flip that timer.
I'll keep that in mind. Have you seen?
Get them on Amazon or whatever.
Okay. Yeah, the timer. Yeah.
Everybody needs a timer. You can do it on your phone. It's more fun when you can like watch the sand go down.
Yeah, or like if you have a game like Taboo.
Yes,
I like to play Taboo.
Right? Exactly. Use your resources.
Right. Yeah. That's good. I was gonna ask, have you seen the show Couples Therapy on? I think it was on
Showtime.
Was it Showtime?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
On Showtime.
Which is also Paramount.
Yeah,
Plus.
you can watch it on Paramount Plus now.
I haven't even heard of it, and I want to watch it now.
I think that you would really enjoy it because I thought of that because, well, not even. Well, it did come up with the timer too. But the first time that it came up was because you were saying that you had mentioned your friend that has been a therapist for like 20 years, and she had a group of therapy friends.
Yeah,
yeah.
I love that.
And, you know, just to be able to, like, you know, strengthen her own therapy and ask the questions. Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's like, it's, you know, and it was just so cool. It was almost like the behind the scenes of therapy. But then also they would share, their therapy session. So obviously these people agreed, to share it with the
right.
world.
They obviously consented.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is really good.
I want to watch that.
Yeah.
It's just called Couples Therapy.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
I want to watch that.
Oh,
I feel like that's right up my alley. As if I don't get enough therapy stuff at work, I'm like, I need to find a show about therapy.
Yep. Yep. It's good. We like it.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I'm gonna have to look that up.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Absolutely. Now, would you say there was a pivotal moment or a defining moment where you realized you were doing precisely what you were born to do? Or has that moment yet to occur for you?
I have no idea. Because I imagine that's such like a strong moment. And when you ask me that, the first thing that comes to my mind is being a mother. Like, I feel like that is what I am meant to do, and I'm using my therapy skills, obviously for myself, to stay regulated, because sometimes I want to whip my hair out, right? Sometimes she's grabbing at it, and I have to, she's a baby, she doesn't know. So I'm still, like, implementing that into motherhood, which I think is really helpful for me, and I'm also trying to get other moms on board with that, because, again, we can't pour from an empty cup. So that question has me stumped. I don't know. I feel like I'm good at what I do, and that, I've had great client relationships. But at the same time, like, how will I know if this is what I was born to do? I don't know. I hope so. I hope that between, like, this career that I've built and this little family that I've built, that, like, this is it for me. Like, this is not as good as it gets, but, like, this between the two is what I am meant to do.
Yeah.
For sure.
But I'm unsure of what that feeling would be.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But I love that question.
Yes. But speaking of you and wanting to sort of get other mothers in on that, would you like to share a little bit about your brand new ebook that you just released called The Balanced Mama Toolkit? So that would
The Balanced Mama Toolkit. Yes! Oh my gosh. So I started, like, making digital products, right? I've recently gotten really into like social media, and specifically TikTok, because I think it has the nicest people on the app. I'm sitting with two of them right now. So I was like, okay, me being a therapist and loving making these little, like, posts and, like, digital products, I'm like, boom, it's like the perfect little baby born between the two. So I think it's like 30 pages. It's an ebook called The Balanced Mama Toolkit. And it's exactly what it sounds like. It gives you tools, tons of coping skills, there's a whole page on resources, different, like, websites, and again, like, coping skills to the max, because we all need those. And honestly, I think it's just very relatable. The way I wrote it was as if I'm, like, talking to a friend. Because I'm not a big reader, which is funny. It's like, why would you make an ebook? Well, I'm not reading it. I'm just creating it. Right. Coaches don't play. So I was, like, I'm going to create this and make it, like, easy read, fun read, a little laugh here and there, and just, like, filled with resources. So I am, like, over the moon about that. Even just that it's, like, created and it's real and that it's out there. Makes me feel really excited, and it's not something that I anticipate that will, like, blow up and, like, go viral, but it's like, if there's, like, a handful of moms that are like, oh, thank God, like, I needed this, that's what my hope was for that.
I love that.
So yeah, I'm really excited about that, because it took me it took me a hot minute to put that together.
Yeah.
But it's 30 pages of just different things I'm thinking about, different things that I wish someone told me about or taught me. And I think the best part is it's not just for, like, new moms. It's just for moms, period. Right? So if your kids are 30 years old or, 2 days old, it's relatable.
Nice.
And that was my goal, because I didn't want any mom to feel like, well, I'm left out. This isn't for me.
Right.
It's for everybody. Okay. So if you know a mom, or if you are a mom and you want a little ebook about your mental health, how to stay balanced, how to thrive in motherhood, check it out.
Okay.
I think it's amazing, but obviously my opinion is biased.
I was just going to ask, how do they? Like, how can they get the book? But we could also put it in the comments, in the...
Sure. Yeah, I can. So it's on my TikTok. I have my Beacons website, so it is linked there. I think I have it for, I think it's $17 or $18. I can't remember. Yes. I haven't looked at it in a little bit. It's jam-packed with stuff, and I think it's so worth it. So,
I love that.
Maybe we'll do a little flash sale, because this is a celebration. Like, being on your podcast and just, like, you know what I mean? So, stay tuned, because I might drop it a little bit lower.
I love that.
Just to get more moms to read it. But yeah, so it is linked on my website and my TikTok, which is Cassidy French 7. I always forget my usernames. I don't know if anybody else does that. I'm like, what is my username? I'm pretty sure that's it. But we can also link the website.
Yeah, because that's what I was going to say. Because you don't necessarily have to have TikTok. You can just go to the website. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Perfect.
That's right.
Nice.
But yeah,
I like that.
If you know a mom, if you are a mom, you should read it, because I really, like, handcrafted it.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm. That was good.
I was going to say that there was blood, sweat, and tears put into it, but there was no blood. There was some sweat and a couple tears.
No blood.
But we're good. There's no blood.
Yeah, that is good.
That's a good little disclaimer for the folks.
Oh my gosh.
That one.
Yeah.
Okay. So, do you feel being a therapist has impacted your ability to care for your own mental health in a way that is different from how you did prior to your education and practice?
I love that question. As I was going through school, I was very busy, but very much aware of my mental health, because I was learning about it constantly. Things were just a lot easier for me back then. Being in college, I thought being in college was really hard, and it was.
Yeah.
I was having a hard time. But when you compare, you then versus you now, you start to see some of the different challenges and how, like, oh, okay, like, I would have loved to have that problem now. So, like, looking back, I was having a hard time, but I didn't feel that it was difficult to manage at that time. It wasn't until I was, like, in the height of my, like, one-on-one during COVID. A lot of people were very stressed out. I was stressed out, so that was a hard time. Mm-hmm. So giving my emotional energy when I didn't have a lot of it was really challenging then, and it did impact me more than I would have wanted it to. But any therapist who says that that's never happened to them, I think, I don't want to call them liars. That's unkind. But I think that it might not be the most accurate, right? Or they might not have noticed it, because, again, we're not robots. We can't give, and have no negative impacts.
Right.
So yeah, I was very much aware of it, but it's just the timing. I chose to spend more time on it when, I needed it more. It was kind of like that very first question. I became in this point where it was almost a crisis, and I was like, oh, this is not good, which led me to take a look farther into it compared to, I know what it is, but I'm good. I should have been in that time to prepare for potential crises. So, full circle moment right there.
Right, yeah. We love those.
Yeah.
We love a full circle moment.
For
yes.
sure, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Well, I think that was amazing. I hope that it has encouraged people to realize that, therapy can be very helpful. It does not have to be negative. It doesn't mean anything's wrong with you, or if something is wrong with you, that there's help for you and that you can overcome. So, I think this was.
And you're definitely not the only one.
Right.
The amount of times I've had either a couple sitting across from me or just an individual. I've worked with people 18 to 90-something, 92.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. So, one, it's never too late to start. And two, it's happening to someone else.
Yeah.
I can guarantee you it's happening to someone else. And like I said, that in itself is very comforting and validating. Not that it changes circumstances, but it makes it hard when you feel like I'm the only one that's going through this, It's isolating, it's depressing. So I'll often say, no, you're not. In the most loving way possible, there's a lot of people with this issue.
Right.
Oh, there are? The relief that I see. So it's never too late, and there's always someone else to even connect with that will get, what you're saying. So, two of my biggest pieces of advice is just go. It's not too late, and there's always someone else. You're not weird, you're not crazy.
Right, yeah.
That's just the way life is.
Yeah.
For sure.
That was something I said in the last episode, was that, for me, with my experience, that it just makes you, even just having somebody to be able to speak with that isn't going to judge you, but then also realizes that, it's more normal than you thought. Because most people think that they are alone, or this is just me, and it's not true at all. There's so many other people that have experienced something similar, and so basically just everything you just said. Yeah, it's so true. It's so true. Yeah.
And the only thing that I would add to that it is okay to not be okay. And as a man, especially, there are a lot of times where it's a certain stereotype that's been given to us in society. We have to remain so put together, so stoic, and there's never a moment where we can fully relax and admit that we aren't doing the best that we could be doing. And a lot of the times that is because of whatever perceived notions that we have about our own ego and how we may be perceived if we say we're not okay. We do have this problem. And I feel that therapy is a very positive thing in order to really take care and nurture your own mental health. That is very essential.
Yep.
We're not robots, male, female, whatever. We are not meant to be isolated. We are not meant to be shoved in a little box with our emotions. We are not meant to be emotionally separated. So this idea that men just can get over things or they don't feel things, I don't know where that came from. But I have words for the individual that created this idea about men. I'll save those for another time, but it is just it's a harmful stereotype, like many stereotypes are. Don't think that it's not appropriate to seek out help because of your gender or a lot of sometimes I run into with religion, lots of different like social constructs that can serve as barriers. Talk about them. I'm unsure if therapy is for me because, and we can talk to you about that. You know, we don't have to get into it right away. The other thing I want to just touch on with the therapy part for men specifically, and this is something that a therapist at my previous job taught me, and that was kind of like his slogan. I'm not going to say his name, just, you know, for his own privacy, but he's been in recovery for, I think, like 40 years or something. Lots of recovery time from drugs and alcohol and just the lifestyle. And he would often talk about how, you know, starting therapy, especially substance use therapy, mental health, was really overwhelming because he was a man and there's this idea of like, just get over it, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. And he has this slogan of like, are you trying to be a man or the man? And like the man is like, ooh, like I'm the man, like I don't need therapy, whatever. And being a man is like acknowledging and recognizing your emotions, taking accountability of them, breaking through that generational trauma if there is any, and like taking control in that way instead of putting on this front of like, I'm good, I don't need it, I'm okay, when you're not.
Right.
So with the men that I've worked with, which 90% of my career I was in a male facility, we would use that, and it was really, I never got a negative response. And coming from a woman, right? I don't know what it's like to be a man. That's not for me to say.
Right.
But just saying, you know, this is something that a lot of men have found helpful. What do you think? And it sparks great conversation.
Absolutely.
Something to keep in mind if you're a man, a male, whatever, thinking about therapy is like, am I trying to be the man or am I trying to be a man? And what does it mean to be a man? Great questions.
Very good question.
Very good, yeah.
It wasn't mine. I just use it. Giving credit where credit's due.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I love that. I love how it stuck with you too.
Yeah. It did.
Yeah.
5 years later, and I'm just, it's on the forefront constantly.
Yeah.
So.
That's amazing.
I hope it sticks with someone else, you know?
I definitely think it's very thought-provoking. For sure.
Well, I think that...
Any other questions?
You said what?
Are there any other questions?
Oh, yeah. No, I think
anything else you're wondering?
I think we did.
Yeah, perfect. I think we did cover everything that we had in mind to ask. Yeah, I totally wish that we would have even just asked ahead of time, like, although I don't know that we would have got responses, but if we would have asked, like, do you have any questions
to ask
a
therapist? Yeah.
We can do a follow-up episode. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, drop some questions and we can do it again. I'm so happy to do this.
I love that.
So yeah, if that's what the people want, that's what the people will get.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So yeah, whatever.
That is so great. Well, thank you so much for this.
I had so much fun.
Yeah, me too.
Like talking to people who are interested in therapy and find it helpful that like aren't my clients. I'm like,
yeah,
like I can just like word vomit, you know?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that.
But yeah,
I love that we met you, and
I know
the timing is just like so.
Like, how lucky am I? How lucky am I? I'm sitting in my living room on a Wednesday night with two beautiful people that I just happened to stumble across.
Oh my
gosh. You know what I mean? Like, how lucky am I? It's something else.
Yeah.
So I had a blast. This is so fun.